Yeah, what was that?
No, actually,
What was that? I didn't understand.
I mean,
I
that
didn't stay on second.
Yeah, past the
Yeah. Can't run.
Right.
You weren't gonna beat out a bunch of.
I do not.
To third base line, kind of be a perfect fit for the guy to go to the.
I might have somewhere in one place that it's.
It's hard enough to punt.
Somebody, I can't wait.
Right.
And then, did you hear him interviewed or?
What do you say?
Sometimes you just swing and you just don't know why.
That's Bohm.
It's so bad.
Yeah, he's the moment's too big
Some, yeah, moments too big.
for him.
Oh,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figured when I read it on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would.
Ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the October 7th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is the meeting minutes dated September 2nd, 2020. Anybody have any questions or comments about the meeting minutes?
No.
No.
All good.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, September 22nd, and September 2nd, seconded by Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Next item on the agenda is zoning hearing board application 618 Lancaster Avenue.
Stacy, can you hear us? You're on mute.
I can hear you. Thank
There
you.
you go. Is Michael Hernandez, he's here for the application as well?
I don't know if he's online. Is he in person?
He is online, so I'm going.
Okay, perfect.
Oh. Michael, can you hear us? You're on mute, Michael. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so this is the zoning hearing board application that is on the agenda. It is under Eda Enterprises because it's 618 Lancaster Avenue. Obviously Stacy is going to recuse herself. And the property, so Stacy is the property owner, and then the tenant is Michael. And they are
Yeah,
proposing.
so obviously I'm recusing myself.
Yeah, so they are proposing a doggy daycare in 618. So 616 Lancaster Avenue is currently under construction and going to open as a dog grooming. And Michael would like to open doggy daycare in 618, which is attached to the building. So Michael and Stacy, you can go ahead and speak if you like.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the building that was the former Berwyn Hardware. And if you're looking at that building on the right-hand side, Michael and Joe are putting together their grooming facility. They are currently in Devon, across from the Dunkin' Donut near Grove Avenue. And their business has grown so tremendously. They're tripling their size and they're moving into the 618 side. The need has come up that their clientele and the community too is looking for daycare for dogs. And this is not boarding. So this is different from like canine resorts and some of those other that are along and in and around the main line. So it's a daytime dog care place. It's also a place if you're having your dog groomed that you can leave your dog there for additional hours for fee. And it is all interior. There are several different areas that dogs of different sizes and temperaments can play. There are going to be some smaller kenneled areas for dogs that maybe are a little more skittish or have, other issues. So, I mean, we're really looking at this as an accessory use to the grooming. And like I said, there's no outdoor dog play area. So I'm not worried about neighbors and barking and that sort of thing. And there is no overnight boarding. So that's what we're proposing for the zoning board. And we're here for the planning commission support.
Any legal issue to be concerned?
Well, they're asking for a use variance, which is, it's up to the zoning hearing board, really. I mean, it's a use variance is sort of somewhat difficult to get at times, but again, that's a decision for the zoning hearing board. So I don't really see any planning issues to it. It's all inside and it is sort of complementary to the present use. And I think that the application argues it's similar to a personal service
Yeah.
establishment, which makes sense to me. I think it's a good argument.
Don't see any issues.
I agree, I mean, no overnight boarding, completely enclosed inside.
Yeah.
Is that chiropractic, is it still there? Is it gonna be adjacent to the, next to the chiropractic building, Stacy?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm looking on Street View and the chiropractor, is that the building that it's right?
So
Okay.
that's correct. The chiropractor moved to a different location behind MJ's. And so the doggy daycare part that we are asking for use relief is that side. And then the grooming is on the right-hand side.
Got it, okay, all right, so it is a freestanding building, but that's where
Yep.
all the dogs will be at, so it's not connected to anything else, so, yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
So the grooming isn't allowed use, it's just the hair of the dogs before and after is technically not.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, the way I understand it, the doggy daycare is, you don't have to get your dog groomed. In other words, it
Right.
would be independent of that.
But the grooming isn't allowed use.
I presume the zoning officer determined
Yeah,
that the grooming
Okay.
was permitted.
Got it.
grooming is permitted. It would fall under personal service, commercial use. The code is essentially silent in the village district about like a dog daycare or an animal daycare. The code talks about a vet office, right, for boarding, but that doesn't fall under this. So therefore, the only area the only district it would be permitted essentially would be the PBO.
But boarding's overnight, right?
Boarding is overnight, that is correct.
And this is not overnight.
This is not overnight, it is just, as Stacy explained, it's just,
Between 7 and 7.
yeah, like, if your dog's getting his nail cut, the nail, get like trimmed up or nails trimmed up, or, he wants to play for a little bit, wearing him.
If, I'm just curious if there's boarding that goes into another classification, I guess.
Yeah, the boarding, I would say, would fall under a different classification than this.
Okay. Is there Stacy, I guess, is there a limit on how many dogs can be boarded for the day? I guess there's some.
You know what? I can't answer that, but Michael, do you have that answer?
Depending on the pen size, there will be limitations in capacities. So for smaller dogs, we're looking probably about 40 in the small pens, and for larger dogs, about 30. So we're probably within a 4,500 square foot facility. We're looking at about 75 dogs. Again, that'll be probably on normal days, on days where like holidays and all that, we'll probably see an increase. Probably no more than about 100.
So do you operate the daycare service now at your current location?
No, we don't.
Okay.
And the numbers you just gave us, is that in line with, I guess, standard?
At least my experience in another doggy daycare that we rent to out in the Fraser area, that seems to be fairly standard for that size space.
Okay.
And of course, that's going to just kind of ebb and flow too with need. So
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think I like the idea too. Yeah, I'm good.
Alright, I'll make a motion to recommend that the zoning hearing board grant variance from section 455.21A township zoning ordinance in order for the applicant to operate the proposed use as a doggy daycare.
A second.
Okay, is there any public comment?
No public comment online.
Public comment? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Stacy recused, so. Motion carries.
Okay,
Next item on the agenda.
thank you.
Complete Streets Initiative study. Oops. A larger. Plan. That you've included in your packet already.
Randy, when do you want do you want PowerPoint now?
Yeah, we can do the PowerPoint, yeah.
Working?
And then, yeah, just go to slide to the slide.
Sorry.
Good, all right. I think I'll stand, if that's okay. Good evening again, Randy Woltemeyer with Bowman Project Manager. So, want to pick up from our April meeting, where we looked over some of the public feedback and the goals. August, I'm sorry. Thank you, Christy. What did I say? April, I'm sorry. So just to kind of step us back a little bit, we're following through this process, very well established process of walking through both a goals and alternatives based exercise. So we've looked at some of our existing conditions, had public engagement, that's helped us develop some of the project goals. She will talk about that in a minute, but I understand even the group reviewed some of those again in September. So we'll revisit the goals and make sure we're starting from a consistent foundation. Of course, there's then many ways to meet there's several alternatives that you can then develop. So we're actually scoped to develop 5 different alternatives. We've actually developed 6. We'll talk about that tonight. And then we'll then be looking to take that through an alternatives analysis, kind of really the testing, among others, how do these alternatives meet our goals? What does the public think about each alternative, as well as a technical review? We'll be looking to review many of the alternatives with PennDOT likely in the month of December. All of that, including your feedback as well as the supervisors, will help us to distill that down to a preferred alternative. So for our objective for tonight is mainly this. It's one, we're not yet ready to select an alternative or debate which one we prefer, but rather tonight's objective is to look at really a validation check of, are these alternatives we have shared with you valid? Are there any fatal flaws that we fundamentally want to remove or reject one of these? And mainly, we want to look at, are these the ones we want to then advance into that next phase, that being the alternatives analysis. Not to get too far out of myself, but we're penciled in to do some engagement in November. So assuming the blessing of the committee, we then gear up for that November engagement. I mentioned the project goals. So I just had these up here again. I will just quickly, open the floor if there's any either questions or follow-up from the September meeting. Just to make sure that there's no further revisions, or if we continue to see the project goals as we've presented here.
No, I don't see any. Looks good.
Okay.
Changed, yeah.
Okay, good. Well then, hearing none, we'll proceed
looking just at safety, take on some parking issues where we can and other things like placemaking. And as some of the alternatives we'll talk about tonight, I think really help to advance some of those other objectives. As we looked at the alternatives, there's really two main drivers of the alternatives. The first being, as we started to look at the traffic analysis, and we heard this through the public comment period, that our biggest variant here is how, if we can improve the Lancaster Avenue, Old Lancaster Bridge intersection, that really helps from a traffic flow perspective. So that's really priority number one. And secondly, then, as we lay over top of that, some of these alternatives, the driver number two is what cross section are we proposing in the village? Of course, right now we have the 4-lane cross section shown on the left, and 2 of the 6 alternatives look at and propose a 3-lane cross section. So we'll talk a little bit tonight about some of the trade-offs of those alternatives. Really, you combine that with what we're doing at Old Lancaster and Bridge, and that really helps to set the stage for the 6 alternatives. So returning back to kind of our problem intersection, Old Lancaster and Bridge, there's 2 main deficiencies there. Of course, one of which is the offset alignment of Bridge and Old Lancaster. What that does at a traffic signal perspective is it creates an offset, or it sets up a split phase where, because of the skewed alignment, that a separate signal phase is needed for Old Lancaster, as well as a separate phase is needed for Bridge. Really, like a lot of things, it's all about time efficiency. So when you need to have a separate phase for both of those, it steals more time. Really, consequently, the flow on Lancaster Avenue, you just can't give it as much time as you otherwise would if those 2 were aligned. So not to get too far ahead of myself, but some of the alternatives we're going to show and discuss tonight are indeed looking to make that realign for some signal efficiency reasons. The second deficiency is, you see from the traffic counts, especially in the morning, you see a lot of left turn vehicles wanting to go across the bridge. And as this aerial shows, there is not a left turn lane. So many of the alternatives you're gonna maybe not be surprised to see we're proposing to add in a left turn lane and or handle that. Those are our main 2. All the alternatives are looking to improve or correct one or both of those deficiencies. Oddly, if you'll notice, we'll talk about this, there's also a right turn lane. And if you were looking at just the traffic volumes, it's there, but the traffic volumes don't really warrant it.
Yeah.
Sometimes road designers they have space, and if there's enough space, they'll say, well, let's make it a turn lane, whether you really need it or not. And a lot of times these like legacy corridors, that happens, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is indeed what happened here. So we'll walk through each of those, but I think you can. So we've developed here 6 different alternatives just for the Old Lancaster Avenue Bridge Avenue intersection. Really, alternative 1 is just keeping it pretty much the way it is, but then, as we'll discuss a little later, we've tested all of these out through 2045, throwing increased traffic. The growth rate in Chester County is about 0.5% a year. So when you compound that stacks up to 20 years worth of growth. Why do we do that? Because especially if we were to, that's what PennDOT's going to expect and ask for, especially if we were to ask or be interested in a roundabout, their methodology would ask us to make sure and confirm that that is working for the next 20 years. So I know there's gonna be questions or concerns of, Trader Joe's and other development. That really gets accounted for in that 20-year compounding of growth. So we're confident that we're able to not just meet the needs of Berwyn tomorrow, the next year, but really take a long-term perspective. Notably, if you were a developer looking to just come in and do an HOP on Route 30, PennDOT only asks that developer to look out 5 years. So we're going out 4 times that to really get out 20 years, make sure we have confidence that we're really would be setting the village up for long-term success. So a little bit of the this graphic on the right, I know we wanted to flag out what we're calling out as different. So alternative 2, just to note, we are here my little pointer, and it kind of gets lost on the screen. But I'll use the diagram on the left. Here we're adding a left turn lane for that eastbound direction, help go traffic across the bridge. And here then we're removing that lightly used right turn lane. Of course, to get that all to then tie in, it will require some widening into the frontage of the combination of the car wash and the tire shop, as you can see there. So these clearly haven't been fully engineered yet, but want to still bring you kind of a general first, blush effort of what level of impact that could have. It also is adding on the westbound direction a reciprocal left turn lane. We don't see a lot of turning traffic there, but it's just from a safety perspective, and we need to have the lane shifted to squeeze it in. We have a small left turn lane there provided. Alternative 3, we basically do everything we just talked about, that left turn lane. But here, if you notice that north approach on Bridge Avenue, we're also looking to realign and true up the intersection's geometry. Of course, then in this, then we can get rid of that dreaded split phase of the signal. But of course, it comes at some greater right-of-way needs and property impacts, as you see here. We're able to squeeze it around the tire shop there on the south side, but yet there would be a major reconfiguration needed of that parking to allow for that. As you'll see, many of these have these types of trade-offs, whether greater impact and greater operational flow. And that's exactly where we'll want to continue looking at this further. But so this one does both, gets that left turn lane in as well as the realignment.
Are the blue lines realignment? So it's going east on Lancaster, then you have to what do you have to grab from the car wash there? What's the?
Yeah, so the existing bridge is here, so it would be pushing that whole Bridge Avenue approach, into the.
On Lancaster by the car wash.
Yeah.
So
No,
why
on
does that have to be?
Oh, on Lancaster, here in the frontage here.
No, Lancaster by right there, right where you have everything.
Yeah, so there'd be some, some modest widening needed here to accommodate the 2 through lanes, the left turn lane, and then we're really leaving.
For the left turn lane predominantly then?
Yeah, and it's mainly.
They're just asking.
Yeah.
Because there's already 2 lanes there, right?
Yeah.
But you're adding the left turn lane.
That's why.
This is the main new feature. And so then to tie that all in, it's
Right.
gotta get.
So the flow goes
Exactly.
where people would expect it to go.
Yeah.
Chris, they got rid of the right turn lane here.
Oh, yeah, all that, I'm just asking about the car.
That becomes the through lane, so the through lane
Right.
needs to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, shift over and then transition it.
And you have to go that far, obviously, because you need the time to.
Yep.
Get around the left lane.
Yeah.
New left.
That's where the road with given the speed limit of this lane shift is calculated based on the speed limit of Lancaster Avenue and there's a requirement for how gradually you need to taper that in.
So then I can't read it. So is that show of sidewalk being moved too? Is that what?
Yeah, the sidewalk could be then accommodated there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, in a complete streets plan, we're looking to add, not remove sidewalk, so
Yeah.
that would be a
I
major.
figured as much, I just didn't know what that other blue line.
Yep. Then here, the alternative 4 would just contemplate the realignment of Bridge Avenue without that left turn lane. So here, we haven't fully, you could just expect there to be less of the impact to the frontage of the car wash and the tire shop, because you're just focused on this one, on the Bridge Avenue alignment, but you're not doing a left turn lane for. So you're gonna see less operational benefit from this, because you don't have that left turn lane, but you don't have as much impact on the car wash right away.
But you eliminate the need for the split phasing of the side street.
Yeah,
So
which
there's a
would-
benefit, but not as much as the prior alternative.
Right, but it would give some operational benefit compared to today.
100%.
Absolutely, yeah. And at the end, we'll show you an operational chart there. So then, another way to handle an offset intersection is
We said
around,
5.
what's that?
Skip alternative 5.
We did skip 5, and that was with some intention.
Sorry, can you go back to the other one?
Yeah.
So here, you're not adding any left turn lanes on Lancaster, like you said, that you are realigning the bridge. But does that mean there'll be impact to the frontage of the Tire Plus and the car wash? Likely?
Some, yes, Nick, some, but certainly not as significantly, yeah.
And once this committee picks the preferred alternative, it'll be evaluated in more detail. Right now, these pictures are just more kind of illustrative, just to give you an idea of what's involved.
Yeah.
But are we keeping, would they have 2 through lanes coming from the south side or
Yep,
west side and going?
yeah, so we have
Okay, I
two
see it.
throughs matching up to pretty much matching, this is very close to existing on Lancaster,
It's what it is today.
but with the realignment.
Yeah.
But you will removing the right turn.
Well, they
lane.
remove it right there.
And yes, the right turn lane. If anything there, why did we do that? It's actually just while we'd be making this improvement, just to get pedestrians across a tighter distance. That would go from, say, that would be about 50 feet versus today, it's probably 62 or more feet. So every foot we can narrow that makes it safer for a pedestrian and faster for them to get across the intersection. One of the things actually, today, there is an all pedestrian phase at the signal. So if you press that button, that's great for a pedestrian. It's actually, but it takes a lot of time. And it actually creates congestion on Lancaster Avenue because of that. It's another reason why, if we can get rid of a right turn lane that's really not needed, let's get that pedestrian. Yes, we want to keep them safe, but if that's 5 more seconds, we can give that back to improving the traffic flow. So I did skip over alternative 6 because actually, or 5, and we'll come back to that in just one more slide. We kind of put the roundabout at the end of the pile, just for kind of the buildup of it. But the roundabout actually works well with this offset configuration. And the way with the roundabout, of course, it's all a yield condition. We actually, in our modeling, found that you don't need the roundabout to be dual lanes. In fact, but you also see here the footprint. This is about, this is scaled to a single lane roundabout, but you could see here, if you had to add another lane around here, you would really be, right now, this fits in pretty nicely, as you can see, but a second lane, you would be 16 feet beyond this, and you'd really have some major impact. But the modeling even showed us we wouldn't need it. Making this a double lane roundabout would be excessive. This is operating at a level service A and B from our modeling. So it's more than adequate at handling the traffic flow we've seen here.
And size wise, it's probably, if you've been through Swarthmore, there's that single lane roundabout in the heart of Swarthmore. probably a similar size to what you would see here.
Believe it or not, my company built that roundabout. We built it again.
We designed it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, since we're talking about this.
Yeah.
What type of design vehicle did you use? What truck? Or do we know?
We're not there yet.
It's about but it's at about 135 foot inscribed diameter, which generally take with the truck apron. I mean, I wouldn't put this to say I can tell you, but it'll handle kind of a design vehicle here.
What Randy did is he just sort of dropped in sort of a very large size single lane roundabout just to kind of get some context and what it might look like. And if at the end of the day, this is the preferred alternative that you want to see advanced, then the conceptual engineering will go into greater detail in looking at all that.
Yeah, I like that this is an option, but that's gonna be very critical for PennDOT for sure.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And especially because the fire station's right there,
Right.
Yeah,
so you would have to make sure that the fire truck would have, room. to
Yeah.
Maneuver.
yeah.
That's great for the fire station.
Yeah, down here on the coming north to it. So yeah, well, it'll certainly, we all know the roundabout designs evolve with
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
for sure.
generally to give a first impression of the imprint and the level of impact.
And this is maybe a silly question, but if you put a roundabout there, now you have the two lanes that go through, would it taper into one lane to go around and then kind of disperse on the other side?
So yeah, that's where this one ties into the idea that really into the rest of the village, there would be that we'd only have then the 3-lane cross section.
Oh, so it would be one
Now on
turn, okay.
the west side of the roundabout, the same thing, yes, that we would transition Lancaster Avenue down to a single lane as it would come into the roundabout.
I got you.
Right.
Okay.
2 lanes would drop into 1 lane as you approach.
Yep. Perfect, okay.
Interesting thing from the placemaking side, and especially with Tom here, you can do some really interesting things in this middle, this is just a blank area for now, but you really could think of that as an interesting opportunity for plantings or placemaking, to a modest degree. I mean, we're not gonna put like a screen in the middle of it, but some type of placemaking that really, it can be a sense of arrival into the village.
What? Just a note here, a lot of the pedestrian traffic is gonna go from the northwest to the southeast, which is the school traffic.
Mhm.
How would you guys envision that?
They'll,
There's only
they're-
sidewalk on that side of the bridge, yeah.
yeah, there would be pedestrian amenities across each of these splitter islands. So
Okay,
you can, the nice thing then is you break up it really becomes crossing 2 one-way roads. So you
Right.
just have to look to your, here, look to your left, cross, look right, cross, and then come across again. So it does help to split that up.
But the lights would the lights stay there? No lights?
No lights, so that's a yield condition. It's intentionally designed at this point, the roundabout design, you're bringing a vehicle down to no more than 15 miles per hour. And they're needing to yield coming into the roundabout, so it does set up as natural of a yield.
I know there's probably some things you get to down the road, but. Middle school lets out, you're just gonna have that steady stream of like groups of 3 and 4 that are gonna be crossing now 4 of those lanes of traffic. I get from a safety perspective, vehicles are slowed down, but just in terms of the interrupting the clash between those two sources of traffic. I could see being something that needs to get thought through.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, here we have just the uniqueness here to reconfigure the business access, you can provide the right out, but we didn't want that to happen right as folks were moving out of the roundabout and further to the east.
It's interesting, and we don't want to dwell too much on this, but this option actually has technically less impact across the Route 30 frontage of the tire shop and the car wash, right? Because you've now narrowed it down to 3 lanes as you travel east, so they actually can, creates an opportunity for them.
So Chris, your traffic model shows that the single lane roundabout does work with the lines you have.
Out through 2045, yeah, yeah. In fact, not to jump too far, it's one of the,
like, just. Can you put some meat on the bone of work? Like, what does that mean? Like, it works, like, what are the sort of tests that you run, just for people that don't?
yeah,
don't know that?
well, we take the existing volumes as of everybody's turning movements, compound that out to, again, we, that, it adds, when you take that so you add about, it ended up about 9%
No, I think,
additional.
if I can, I think you just want to know how's it working.
What is working means,
Level
I'm
of-
saying that it's
so
so much
level of-
travel time only increases by X%.
Yeah,
or
so-
something like that.
Level of service, right?
Yeah.
You've heard traffic engineers talk about level of service, which
yeah.
is the measure of delay. And then it's a level of service A or B or C or D. I think the intersection operates at level of service. Do you remember?
D currently.
No, with a roundabout.
Oh,
A and B?
Sarah, so actually Sarah, if we can have her, I'd rather,
We don't need to go all the way down this
Yeah,
rabbit hole,
yeah.
just that, like,
Just to give you some idea.
yeah, for residents, like, they're gonna say. They're gonna comparing it to the current condition, and then say comparing to other conditions around is what's gonna resonate with people.
So this is gonna be clearly presented when we
Yeah.
go to the public engagement is, okay, well, here's the level of service, here's what you
Here's
know
what-
today, right?
perfect.
This is what they all can visualize. Here's what you have today. Here's how it's gonna work in 20
Yeah.
years. Well, here's how the roundabout
And
works
here's
in 20 years.
Average.
The roundabout, I'll tell you,
times and-
works
Right,
better.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But
I'm
Sarah,
not surprised, I just.
Yeah.
Can- I mean,
you wanna ask Sarah what?
Yeah, so can you all hear me?
again, Sarah, yep.
Great, thank you. Depending on which analysis method you use, levels of service B or A, both of which are considered very good.
Okay. So,
great.
and the existing intersection configuration, Sarah, if you project that out 20 years, is that a D?
Yeah, level of service D overall, with some of the approaches, level of service F, which we would generally consider to be failure.
Okay, so you've got movements that are failing and overall it's a D, whereas the roundabout's a B.
Yeah.
A
Got it.
question for you. So
Yes,
the
sir.
traffic moves more smoothly than going into the high school and into the middle school. Will it back up more or that's a right turn only, as you go down Lancaster and goes like that?
Yeah,
So what's gonna be the impact to that? Cause now there'll be more cars getting there faster, right? Only during rush hour.
Yeah. Candidly, it's a great question. We haven't looked at anything we've looked at Lancaster Avenue.
Right.
We haven't looked at any of the kind of upstream, downstream, kind of north, south.
Having done that, I don't know how many times, what the worst part is the acute right turn you have to make and the cars coming out. So the fact that you're splitting those sources of traffic up, I think is a huge benefit.
And it's a right turn, you don't have to stop for the right turn, going
Yeah,
in past
right.
the school, so
Yeah.
it's really only guys going forward that are gonna block. Impede that traffic until you get to the light. Because I just wondered, it might be a way to look, the parking lot to enter the middle school. Is past the light and in, and there's an exit to come out, maybe coordinating something with that. If you get into that lot before the light, it probably would relieve traffic better than you would have to go past the light.
None of that we're gonna be looking at as part
Yeah,
of this,
I hear you.
but that's
Yeah.
maybe like a good, like if this has legs at the end of the day and there's an idea to move ahead, there's gonna be plenty of time to then think about, okay, what does that mean upstream, downstream, kind of off the corridor?
Yeah.
But all good points.
Like traffic moves like water, so if you get rid of one bottleneck, it's gonna rebalance somewhere, so we have to think about that for sure.
What was the peak hour used for the morning? I'm assuming it was the AM and PM peak hour. What was the morning? Cause I'm sure that probably captured some of the school traffic.
Yeah, I don't remember.
They did, I remember the numbers.
We talked last
You
time.
covered it, but they did change the hours of the school. I don't know if they changed that since you did your thing or not.
Yeah, what the analysis is all focused on the morning and evening rush hour, right? So 7 to 9 AM, 4 to 6 PM. I don't know what,
7 to 9, okay.
yeah, but if it's 7:30 to 8:30, it's capturing.
Yeah, you're capturing one of the schools.
Yeah.
It's a very unique situation with the high school and the middle school, so close.
Right next to each other,
Yep. So usually, in fact, usually the morning rush hour does capture very nicely the school peak hour in the morning. afternoon, we've missed the school in the evening, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at the commuter period.
Yeah.
It's definitely worse in the morning too, just because you've got sports and everything else spread it out in the afternoon.
Does the roundabout take twice as many crossing guards? Because there's always crossing guards out there for the school kids, across the road, getting.
There's a crossing guard at Route 30?
Not out that far, they're just up by Old Lancaster.
There's no crossing.
But I would work, there's not
They're
down
not
by
in
Lancaster.
I thought there was some at Lancaster and Bridge.
There's one in Parks at Goodwill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that,
Really?
I saw
yeah,
that other
because
day.
they,
Yeah.
they come across, we're doing the sidewalks and,
On the west side.
yeah, so I know that they,
Yeah.
They go to the
At this intersection there?
Goodwill, yeah.
So there's one, what's that,
Goodwill.
crossing the
Yeah.
Bridge Avenue?
Yeah.
Okay.
so they go all the
Yeah.
way down, I guess the kids go down to the sports field, like back,
Yeah.
down by First, so
Yeah,
that's,
Fifth Avenue.
yeah, that's the route that they take, so they
Okay.
cross there
Yeah.
and go down.
Yeah, the library.
Kennedy, it's something, it's a great point. I'm glad you flagged that and I don't know of too many that are that close to a school that have that, but we'll look into that and see if I know our New England counterparts, we both work on roundabouts in various contexts and we'll see if we can grab some lessons learned from.
They're
what-
literally hordes.
Yeah.
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 Hordes.
Can you add lights for pedestrians? to it?
So
Wow.
you can, but you then you really begin to undermine the efficiency of the roundabout. They've been added in some locations for visually impaired. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you're back to the inefficiency of a traffic signal.
Honestly, that's the Achilles heel of this whole thing. It is, all of that traffic patterns coming from the north, all those kids coming from the northwest.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, let's keep that great feedback that will continue, especially with the alternative 6 to be mindful of. Let's just back in. So then both the driver number 2, of course, is our cross section. So for alternative 5 and 6, we then connected that to the concept of the 3-lane cross section through the village. So that's why we kept this alternative 5 remained a signalized alternative, so that's why it was number 5, and then we had the roundabout at 6. So this one includes the realignment as noted there on the but then because we have just a 3-lane cross section here and continuing in the village, really then the intersection control it is set up such that we just have here, for instance, a left turn lane, only one through movement, and then the reciprocal through left, and then a right turn for all that traffic that makes the right across the bridge. So so it's a little bit more modest and scaled down to match the 3-lane cross section, but includes the realignment as well. And we do have a slide at the end that puts all 6 of these where we did run a travel time analysis. Pretty much if I'm a motorist on Route 30 or Lancaster Avenue, how long will it take me to go from here all the way down past the Midland intersection? So we'll show you those results here momentarily. The really interesting thing, and it's depicted here on the conceptual plans, is how the 3-lane cross section really begins to allow you to do some other things within the footprint of Lancaster Avenue. So namely here, Stacy was reminding us from prior to make sure we look at the parking plan, the parking study that was done for the township, which really noted a deficiency, especially of publicly available spaces right through the middle of the village. So if seeing here from the cross section that we're really contemplating where possible the provision of on-street parking. And in fact, so from our inventory today, there's 13 parking spaces currently that this is just designed out with more than double that, taking it to 32 parking stalls along the south side of Lancaster Avenue. So to me, I think, and then not just that, we just have started here, but you can see then your opportunity to make some easier mid-block crossings, where here, instead of crossing 4 lanes and dual travel lanes, we could even strategically look to add a median island there. So just like crossing a roundabout, you're just having to look one direction then the other. So I do think it it starts to present some interesting opportunities. And then there's other placemaking opportunities. Tom and his team can start thinking about, could there be plantings or what we want to think about doing with some of the expanded sidewalks or bump outs. So there's really some interesting opportunities that could be presented with the 3-lane cross section. In fact, Brian's gonna, just the one thing that you might ask is, Randy, why is this center turn lane red? And we have an answer for it that Brian's gonna share from a case study here in Glenside. Sure.
Okay, yeah, so we're talking a little bit about Glenside, which is in Montgomery County, village spanning Cheltenham and Abington Townships. So we get the Keswick Theater. Maybe you've gone there for a show. A great little town, great little village. And we're gonna kind of look at some before and afters. This photo is from 2007. And then by 2014, it had done that. So from this, and I'll put them side by side here to point out a couple of things here. What Randy was just discussing was through the center median turn lane area, they're using a stamped asphalt, which has like a red brick appearance, kind of a very, I don't know, charming small town kind of feeling that I think looks pretty good, and I think would also have, an impact of slowing traffic and kind of creating this village feel. A few other elements to look at is you'll notice the pedestrian scale lighting on the picture on the left. The street lights are very tall, very oriented towards vehicles. On the right, they sort of have you can see a few here. This one, and this one's even shorter, kind of to create lighting that is, directed towards pedestrians and wants to sort of, again, encourage a kind of a village feel. As we were just talking about parking as well, you'll notice that they refresh the paint job, and on top of that, also sort of enclose the parking spots, which then I think also has the impact of defining the travel lanes more. It doesn't actually narrow them, right? But it sort of creates, now you're driving down there, and whether there were cars parked or not, you would kind of know this is my travel lane. It's a defined space. I'm going to show you another image here. Crosswalk here again, 2007. And this is pretty typical, pretty common turn lane down the middle. Now, again, you have the red brick or the stamped asphalt kind of coming through the middle, a decorative crosswalk going across with a vertical element. The state law yields, stop for pedestrians. You also note in the back and forth too that the sidewalks, they redid the sidewalks also with kind of a red brick decorative fashion instead of kind of a more, typical concrete sort of thing. And what, I would contrast that a little bit with what's going on with Berwyn now, where there's kind of, it's not consistent. There you go across different sections of it, and it's, this material, it's that material. And then this kind of provides a sort of a sense of place. This is a kind of a village with some, sort of quaint sidewalks and, even elements here like the trash cans is improved. It's all these sort of streetscape elements that I think are, do a lot for not a ton of investment, but they do a lot to sort of signal a welcoming place, a walkable place, somewhere that you want to be, you want to spend time.
Brian, how does the traffic volume on Easton Road
Yeah, so Easton Road here there's about like 11,000 vehicles per day versus I think with sort of the heart of Berwyn, we're talking about probably about 14,000. Something like that. So it's pretty similar, but you also know too that there is only 2 lanes already, and it kind of always has been, so they're making it work with 2 travel lanes and center turn lane.
I'm sorry, I have to run, but I'm gonna jump on the Zoom so I can hear you guys finish. But, all right, great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Are the bus stops in the side lanes, in the parking lanes, can the buses pull over into those lanes to stop?
I'm not actually sure that, I guess in some cases you could have a bump out where you would, where you would not have it conflict with a parking stall. That would probably be most preferred, would be to have a bump out. And then that way, over here, for instance, if there's no parking, it'd be preferable to have this bumped out. So you could, and that certainly could be one thing that we would consider here in Berwyn is to bump out and get then you can have your ADA compliance and you're not, parked car isn't in the way of the bus at that point.
I think SEPTA doesn't like to have buses go into a little recessed bump out off the road because then it's hard. They're not like a school bus. It's harder for them to get back into the flow of traffic. So they'd almost just rather stop in the through lane, up against the curb, get people in, get them out, and then they can go.
You wish they would get it in, get it out. But
Yeah.
it's a slow process.
Yeah, well, agreed. But I think it's a great comment. We haven't figured that out yet. But I think consulting with SEPTA through this process will be a good idea.
Not for tonight, but I think that's just sets up this, in the future, we'll be again looking at the trade-offs here relative to the cross sections and the goals. And really we'll be continuing to explore how each of the different cross-section treatments allow us to advance each of these respective goals.
Question on number 6, the 2 roundabouts, the roundabout furthest east. How long?
Gonna get,
Oh, okay.
yep, you're pivoting me right there. So just, we heard certainly a lot of comments. Of course, we did the farmers market, which is right here in this pictured in here. So we heard a lot of interest about Lancaster and Midland. So for the alternatives 1 through 4, we are maintaining the 5-lane cross sections you see here, but undoubtedly probably the top complaint or issue or concern we heard was the completion of it from a pedestrian standpoint. So all 4 alternatives 1 through 4 would certainly contemplate the provision of those 2 crosswalks. Certainly we're all in, if there would be the redevelopment of this corner, that would likely be or even a land development requirement of that project. So alternatives 1 through 4 keep the 5-lane cross section as we see here. Now that 5th alternative where we're thinking about the 3-lane cross section here, then Midland and Lancaster would be that more traditional 3-lane cross section. And then alternative 6, where it would be the roundabout. Now here, this roundabout could be independent. You wouldn't have to do, say, both of them as a roundabout. This could kind of stand by, this could get phased in with alternative 5 if you want it to be. But we've heard a very great interest about the idea of a town square concept emerging here, especially between the green space or plaza that's already established here. Actually, Tom's going to speak about in just a minute some ideas that we have here, plus some more greening and placemaking here. That it it really could all come together, we think, as a really interesting kind of town square concept here. And then similarly, pedestrians would be accommodated across each of these splitter islands, making it that dual, just crossing a two-phased crossing, cross one side, get to the refuge island, cross the other to come across.
Was it ever a consideration to make that one street on the north side a one-way so that you could go in but not come out?
That is, that and the bridge underneath the railroad continue to come up as commonly, addressed concerns. I wish it was part of this scope so I could just roll up my sleeves and help us solve it. Unfortunately, our scope remains tightly on Lancaster Avenue. But yes, that does remain that, and I think, in my opinion, it needs to all be studied with the bridge. So the township can make good decisions about circulation and flow and pedestrian safety there. Certainly it's gonna tie into this project. But yes, that's kind of a break off study as to how Old Lancaster is gonna operate there.
Yeah, but I've just offered that should the township decide to move in that direction, none of that would be prevented by any of these ideas, and I think they would blend in nicely, right? So they're kind of moving in maybe parallel paths, and if they come together, I think they can come together. We're aware of it, and it's probably something that we'll acknowledge and maybe reference some of these ideas in this process. But I think maybe there's a level of effort that goes beyond this scope, probably working with those business owners and taking a closer look at it.
I got a question maybe for Colleen or maybe Tom. If this old Handles property, I guess the Midland development, it looks like there's some right of way take. How does that work with the current, if it's already been approved?
So it would work the same as if it was any other property owner. Right? So even at the other side where Bridge was, if we did the roundabout, we would have to go into the Tires Plus. So we would have to obtain property from the property owner of Tires Plus. And maybe the Goodwill or anything along those lines. It looked like there was something over there. So it would work the same exact way.
It might make the acquisition cost higher.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's already approved plan.
But because they haven't started, right, do we know what their schedule is to move forward?
Oh, we don't know. We don't have recorded plans at this point. So
Okay.
we're still.
If they are continuing to move at a slow pace, and if this idea catches on to move forward, maybe this is a positive to them, right? They would see it as an opportunity to maybe redesign their site and maybe bring the roundabout into the project, so.
Yeah, I think that would be something, if this option was chosen, then it, just like everything else, that's when they would start to go into the actual weeds of trying to figure out the design and how, even if it is, like, it looks like this is just a sketch,
Yes.
right? Like there's no measurement, so we don't even know if we would have to obtain a ton, right? We would have, it could just be like a smidge of land where, or we just stay in the right of way. And
Yeah, it's
like,
gonna,
try and
it's
find-
more than a smidge on that corner.
Yeah,
Chris?
it's really, yeah.
I know.
The toughest part of this design is, and you can see this is encroaching in the limited.
No, but on the other corner though,
Yeah, the opposite
And
corner.
I mean that, as a roundabout designer, you're struggling to get this approach to work, so you have to push the whole center of the roundabout even maybe further than you normally would to the south to get it all to work.
Question on the east side of that, how much do you take up to go from 4 lanes down to 3 or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, tonight we're not gonna talk about Lakeside. And our scope goes all the way down to Lakeside. That why we didn't is we wanna really figure out what we're doing in the heart of the village. If there's no appetite for a 3-lane cross-section in the village, then it helps to answer some questions that we're not gonna think about but if there's an appetite for 3 lanes, then we can start to think, well, maybe we could take this all the way from, say, Leopard on the west, all the way to Lakeside on the east, and calm that whole stretch. But we're not yet there for that logic of let's figure out just from Midland to Bridge what's most preferred, and then we can like build out from there. So so one scenario to answer your question would be just beyond Midland, we could transition from 4 to 3, or we can continue to think and study of even east of Lakeside. So we haven't quite pinned down exactly where that transition zone would be.
I was just really looking for the minimum distance, like ask a different question, what's the minimum requirement to go from 4 to 3? A quarter mile, what do you gotta do here?
What would you think there, Chris?
I would, pretty quickly, I think you could transition back to 4 lanes.
From 4 to
It's a
3.
few hundred.
Well, I mean, I think if you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it.
200 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Because this does seem to make sense, and option 5 makes sense with pedestrians, and together this gives you your 3 lanes up to option 5.
Yeah,
And then you go back to 4 on either side of these things.
Yeah.
and
this is
You've got your
that
village
alternative,
feel, right?
yeah. And really, one of the main questions is, well, Randy, how's this all looks interesting, how's it gonna work from the traffic perspective? So we did, Sarah is the wizard of this, I'll give her credit, so again, we've modeled all of these out through 2045. We've looked at background growth. Really, one of the main things to compare it to is that first alternative, the salmon colored, that is basically they do nothing. That's your existing conditions. So most of them, AM in the morning going eastbound, or PM eastbound, you're seeing all 5 of the alternatives are performing better than the existing.
And that's because you're continually being delayed up at that offset intersection, right? That offset intersection is always gonna be the problem.
Yeah, so and then here in the only of the 4, AM morning, eastbound and westbound. The PM westbound, here you see some of the alternatives are performing, say, worse than existing, but not by huge margins. To me, if I were, as your consultant, we wanna pick one of these alternatives for more than just the traffic flow. As we saw, this project, if it was just the goal of the project was we have 6 goals of this project. One of which is keep traffic moving, but it's not the only goal. So I think, to me, the main takeaway here is there's some variance, but they're pretty much all meeting the traffic efficiency goal. So then we can move past that to now, how are these all performing to our other goals of the project?
And as we move forward, we're gonna do a little scorecard that's gonna kind of rank each of the alternatives against all of the goals that we have. And
Yeah.
we're not prepared to talk about that this evening, but that'll be part of the evaluation.
Yeah, last time, your new presentation, you had each of the turns graded, I can't remember what it was.
Oh, existing level service, yeah.
Which one was the worst? Which turn was the worst? But no, you got 4 turns, or which one? Or 4 directions, maybe? Cause we're making westbound worse, was that already a bad one?
Well, what intersection talk about?
Yeah, that's the main,
Well, all these are referring to.
No, this is the overall travel time from
yeah,
end to end on the corridor.
Yeah, so the intersection at Bridge and.
that's the worst performing.
Yeah, and I remember there were different ratings depending on which way you were turning, so. Do
Yeah,
you remember which was the best and which was the worst turn? I don't have it in front of me, but they had different ratings for sure,
you
yeah.
meaning at
The intersection.
at the intersection?
Individual turning movements and
Yeah.
levels of
Yeah.
service on turning movements.
Yeah, your level of services were different, depending on which direction you're going.
Yeah,
Do you recall which one was the worst level? And I'd like to know, just, are we impacting that one better? Cause this doesn't tell you
yeah.
how they would rate it.
What, I don't have that tonight, and the sake of simplicity was trying to keep it a little higher level than that, but we certainly have it and can provide it to you.
Yeah, I think if you just pull out the one that you showed us and then say, how would these affect those?
Yep,
We can drill down.
we certainly have, it, yeah.
I
We need
have
to
it
do that.
here. It looks like the Bridge Street coming from the school side going south. I mean, if you go out the side street, it's an F.
Yeah, which one of these would that be, do you know?
That's none of these, because this is just looking at
Just
traffic
west and
on
east.
east and west,
Yeah.
right?
So why are you looking at these instead of the north and south, if those are the ones that are problems? But I'm not critiquing this, I'm just.
Sure.
Yeah, no, we were, for sake of simplicity and digestibility here, we were just kind of putting the scenario of, I'm a driver trying to get along Lancaster Avenue through here. We certainly have all that data. A lot of times you can very quickly overwhelm you with kind of all these letters, and we tonight we took the air of simplifying it, but we certainly have that and can share that.
Part of the logic is when somebody comes up to a major intersection on Lancaster Avenue, if you're on the side street, you expect to wait when you're on the side street. But when that light turns green, when you enter onto Lancaster Avenue, that's the point at which I think drivers have a hopeful expectation that they can just keep flowing. And this is really just looking at just that flow of traffic on Lancaster Avenue. But as we know, at that intersection of Bridge and Old Lancaster, if we can fix the offset, get rid of the split phasing, add the left turn lanes, we can make that intersection better, not only on Lancaster Avenue, but also on the side streets. We have that information, we need to show that to you.
I appreciate what you're saying, but remember, north and south were
That's
the issues, and those were the failures. If we only look at east and west.
No, but we've looked at that,
Without
as well.
looking at north and
But
south.
we have looked at that because.
No, I believe you look
Yeah.
at it, all I'm saying is, we're looking at east.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
west. We're not looking at north and south right now.
And
So
we
just show us north and south and we'll have a good idea what you
Yep,
did.
we'll show that to you. But what also happens is because north and south is so inefficient today, they're getting extra green time because of the split phase, and that's hurting Lancaster Avenue. So by correcting the north and south, you're actually also correcting the east and west. It's all tied together. All that to say, it becomes a very layered and complex conversation, but it's actually an easy answer. We have the data. We need to share that with you.
Good question.
Yeah, great question.
And really it's kind of, down here at the south, that ties in, some of the placemaking and, Tom, if you're prepared to speak a little bit further to that.
Just one footnote before I talk about this.
Please.
So, Route 30, the Lincoln Highway, was ordained in 1913. It went from Atlantic City to Lincoln Park in Los Angeles. It goes through 589 towns in the United States. The three examples that I think are most relevant to Berwyn are New Oxford Borough, Gettysburg Borough, and Ligonier Borough. In Ligonier, as Route 30 goes through the center of town, the people there call it the town square, but the real locals call it the Diamond. About 20 years ago, as the Gettysburg Borough planning consultant, and that's about 15 years ago for New Oxford Borough, we worked with the Lincoln Highway Association to do the landscape plan for both roundabouts, each of which were different, but common to them were these beautiful signs of the Lincoln Highway Association. So let's say at upcoming meetings or before the project's done, people who are digesting all of the ideas of the roundabout are worried or wondering about them. In addition to Glenside, as an example of a solution that works, we might want to give them comfort to say 150 and 40 and 20 years ago, other places along the Lincoln Highway had to solve problems like we are addressing today. And it just, we were able to depressurize the cabin in New Oxford Borough 15 years ago by looking at all kinds of places across the country. So that's one thought.
Yeah, I like that.
The idea here in this corner is there promise that diagonal from the Bronze Plaza that Stacy did, that there could be another plaza space like the triangular shows in that earlier exhibit. And so when you inventory the parking in the Berwyn Square Shopping Center, and you take out the parking that would be consumed by this idea of a plaza, you would have to make up for it by having some type of parking over near Trader Joe's. We don't know what the subsurface utilities are, but if we did something like what Stacy did at the diagonal intersection and went up 2 or 3 stories, you could more than compensate for the lost parking here. Well, the point is, Eastham Township does not own this. And when my colleague Aaron and I first drew this plan, Randy thought maybe in its early first phase carnation, it could be a temporary seasonal food truck plaza and need not have the beautification, with the shade trees and the benches and so forth. But the idea of a coffee food bar, which we affectionately call Berwyn Brew, is sized like the Shake Shack, the original Shake Shack in New York City, across from the Flatiron Building, and also sized like the 2 kiosks at Bryant Park in New York City. Each of those, the Flatiron at Madison Square Park in New York City and the Bryant Park kiosks started out about 450 square feet and grew in size to about 600 or 900 square feet. So realizing that until Stacy completes her soon to be finished project, it's hard to find where do you get coffee in Berwyn. You can get it at the farmer's market on Sundays, but we thought it was a cool idea to consider this idea that came out of the Recreation, Open Space and Environmental Resource Plan update of having a town square in Berwyn somewhere. And it looked like this corner held some promise because it has the elbow room to fit it. And
It is like an elbow.
yeah. So it's just a first level kind of playful concept for which we thought it would be appropriate to get any commission sort of general gut reaction to the idea. So
So a kiosk in the light brown area.
yeah, so the idea would be as somewhat of a terminated vista, as the motorist is traveling each direction on Route 30, you would see a structure that was as well designed as the ones at Bryant Park in New York City. And it would have the look of a gazebo, but admittedly, it's just a very simple coffee, sandwich, breakfast, lunch kind of hangout place. But yes, it could go in that corner, all of which has to be in partnership with the owner of the property and with some kind of compensation for the lost parking. But in about the 20 times that I've been there since we've started this project, it is the place where there's the least amount of parking. And you all know it better than I, but
It gets pretty full at nighttime.
say that,
That Chinese restaurant gets a lot of parking at night.
okay. Yeah, and so I've already been here at night about 2 or 3 times. I probably drove through too late after the restaurant was closed. But good point.
And I just my gut reaction is that once Trader Joe's goes into there, that you're gonna see an upgrade in the other tenants in that building that are probably gonna drive along the traffic too, and it doesn't require a lot of parking, like you're gonna have the couple of those places that, you know, I think parking is gonna be at a premium in that shopping center, once Trader Joe's moves it.
Yeah.
So,
In which case, it might have to shrink.
yeah,
You know, even with that Mary Cassatt painting of that utility at the corner, it kind of gives it a little boost in terms of attractiveness. And so if you imagine it a third of the size, it would still be, especially in the corner, and especially where you see that hexagon overlapping the grass area, maybe tastefully sized and right sized to take up the least amount of parking. You know, if it's gonna happen at all. But as Randy pointed out to Aaron and I, well, if it never happens, maybe we could get the owner to allow us to have some kind of cool food truck arrangement, circle the wagons at the corner on selected times.
Yeah.
Not in competition with, you know, what's going on
Yeah.
otherwise in the restaurant.
yeah, no, that'd be good. That'd be a good idea.
Great, okay. So as we wrap up, kind of where does our team go from here? We'll be, as noted, beginning the alternatives analysis. And really a key driver of that is some of our community engagement, which I mentioned at the front end. So we're looking to have a focus, we're kind of 2 phases, having a business oriented breakfast. Are we confirmed with that yet, Colleen, from the?
I reached out to the president of the business association. She said she was really interested. She was gonna reach out to people. I believe the members are interested. I just haven't had a final count or anything
Okay.
along those lines.
Yeah, so we're thinking of that would be hosted at the Hilltop House as a morning event. And then kind of just for we could be able to keep kind of our setup. And then that the following evening, have an evening open house, really with the goal of allowing the community and the public to learn more about these alternatives, give us feedback with whether it's through Post-its or dots, and really get their thoughts on this. We have 3 Board of Supervisor updates, so we would like to kind of do all these in a pretty tight window, so we can get some initial feedback from the supervisors. And then as noted, we're gonna look to have a first technical meeting with PennDOT to get some initial temperature reading from them and the county. So really, by the time we would come back, we're scheduled to return to this group in February. I might even see if we could move that up to January to really come back, report back all of what we've heard from these respective kind of touch points, and then really begin in earnest to kind of sharpen our pencil and try to narrow down our alternatives down to, you know, ideally we come into a preferred one by late winter time.
And as members of the steering committee, you're available with, you know, welcome to join us at any of these meetings, certainly at the business breakfast or the community open house. Might be good for you to hear firsthand what we're hearing from the public.
Yeah, Colleen, if you could make sure we get invited to those. I did have one kind of specific question. You had mentioned about the growth rate. Did you take into account for the future development as for the Midland property?
So, Sarah, who's on the line, can talk about that more quickly, better than I can, but what I can tell you from our prep meeting earlier this week, the initial projections at a planning level is just looking at a annual growth rate compounded for 20 years. But we've talked internally, and, you know, there are some specific developments coming into the area. You've got the property at the corner of Midland and 30, which is largely apartments and a little bit of ground floor commercial. I remember when they did their traffic study, it's not a huge generator, but it's got some traffic. Of course, you have the Trader Joe's, which has not been accounted for specifically. The intent of the annual growth rate compounded for 20 years, I think it gives us enough of a cushion to feel comfortable that from a planning level perspective. We're pretty good. We're in good shape for what we're trying to do at this level, but it wouldn't be difficult for us just to layer on maybe some specific traffic from the development on the corner or maybe the Trader Joe's. Even though I don't think it's necessary, nor do I think it's going to be a problem, but inevitably somebody from the public is going to ask us that same question.
Yeah.
And we've kind of come to the conclusion in the last couple of days, maybe we just do it and then we can say, oh yeah, we tested that too and it works. So we'll probably go through that step.
Yeah, and what did you say the compounded growth rate was?
I think it's
0.5%.
It's about 0.5% per year.
No, what did it come out to be?
Came out to about 9% all from above existing.
Right.
How many years?
20 years. It's actually
I hope
0.4 something.
it's gonna be more than that, to be honest with you. Because 0.5% a year for 10 years is a minimum of 5 years, right? But you're compounding it. Hoping it'd be more, because that's not much. I mean, what did we grow in the last 20 years?
That's what so the PennDOT updates their growth factors every year based on historic data. And so that is sort of the historic growth trend for this type of road.
But we've changed our comprehensive plan for the county, right? Prior to like within the last 20 years, didn't that change? So they concentrated growth in different areas.
They're gonna have to go by what PennDOT says.
Oh, okay.
But which we did, but I think the points that are being made and maybe factoring in some of the specific local growth that's occurring in the area would be a good sort of extra factor of safety in our evaluations. Just to know that it continues to work. So we'll make a note of doing that.
Yeah, if you guys could put on there the same way that you described the intersections when we first started.
With the level of
Yeah,
service.
if you could have featured alternatives, that would really help, I think, even the public understand
We'll do that.
what's going on.
Great feedback. We can discern it. One of the first times I've heard somebody non-engineer like begging for level of service data. I love it. I love it.
Don't tell anybody.
Any other comments, directions, or questions?
Thank you, very comprehensive. I mean, number one.
Sure.
You guys think we're moving in the right direction in terms of the ideas and the alternatives?
Yeah, I think, I really think the pedestrians, are gonna have big impact on it up there with that one intersection. But with the roundabout, perhaps in some way to address that, slow down the traffic and you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think alternatives 5 and 6 are the ones that,
Yeah.
you know, accomplish the kind of things that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that east-west movement because you're talking 10 seconds difference roughly. It might have been 9 or 11, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But, you know, when someone complains about going from 3 to 2, I can say to them, like Rob in particular, Rob, you're gonna lose 10 seconds. You know, so he isn't complaining. And he will, you know, that's it.
You know, definitely a positive trade-off and, you know.
I think like you just said, 5 and 6 are the ones with people like, I think having that extra width. That's not part of the road anymore, whether we use it for parking, which I think that is the concern, or expanding sidewalk, they're gonna have.
Yeah.
Have more.
Yeah. Or shorter distance crossings if we're 30 mid-block.
Yeah.
The mental hurdle, I think, that's difficult for people to clear is the idea of going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes in each direction. How could that be, right? How can that work? And well, the point that we're learning as we move through this process is the choke points aren't the mid-block sections. People move in the mid-block sections. It's the intersections. So if we can open up the valve through the intersections,
Right.
That's the problem we solve. And then how you connect the dots can be really up to us. 4 lanes or 2 lanes with a center turn lane and on-street parking. You know, has that created other kind of wonderful opportunities for Berlin?
Yeah.
So that's part of the messaging that we hopefully can convey.
I mean, is there a lot of local examples of that happening? I mean, you have like,
So
that might be something good to have to.
Yeah.
explain to people, you know, like,
there
hey,
have,
Stories, yeah.
yeah, of road diets.
Yeah,
There have been, I don't know if have there been any locally? There have been road diets elsewhere in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We could probably find a success story or two to show how it's
Yeah.
worked.
I think that's good. And the other one would be like some good roundabout success stories as well as road diets. Yeah, I can. One or two are jump into mind, but I think having a good strong list.
I could
Yeah.
see going to the public meeting, just even if we had like a board that says, hey, this has been done before, and just have something that people can take a picture of that and they go home and Google it. Pull it up on Google Earth and have a look.
Yeah, a lot like what Brian pulled together for Glenn's
Yeah,
side.
like we can get a few of those examples.
For the actors.
And,
Yeah,
and
that would be great.
Or they'll go a Sunday trip and go for a drive.
it's not gonna have the same conditions like what we have with Bridge Avenue where it's all set, but I mean, just.
SWAT, for example, is a good one, because most people.
Yeah.
Not too far away.
Just so people can see what they can gain.
Website is a very nice, I've been there before, and it actually, you come away thinking, oh, this is a really cute little town.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
If I may, is the impact of people getting in and out of the parking spaces taken into account?
No,
Because that will stop traffic.
it will. It'll slow people down. Yeah. There is a higher level of modeling that can be done to factor all that in, but
Not really worth it.
not worth it, and it's very expensive because you have to, the number of inputs that you have to basically do a sort of a micro level kind of model creation, it's not worth it, and really not anything that we could do at this point. But yeah, that's not, and that will slow traffic down. But hopefully we give them reason to slow down and they want to look at all the things happening in Berlin.
If the center two-way left turn lane, if it like if it has the one he showed where it's just a cobble, paved or whatever.
Yeah, people use
If
it.
someone is parking, then you kind of go around it, versus being then stop.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hold on, Bill, can you hear us? Bill?
Yeah,
Hey.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Great, thanks. No, I appreciate it. I think it's on the right track. The one comment I would make, I know that people are panicked about the traffic bottlenecks that you see like at Eagle Road and in Radnor and Tredyffrin to the east. And some of the comments I've heard or read between the lines is people feel like if we go down to 2 lanes in Berwyn, that's what will happen. And so I just think you guys should be prepared to show how the traffic counts in the village now can handle this type of diet, and just be prepared for comparisons to the traffic situations in Paoli and then in Radnor. That's what people are comparing it to.
Are you saying at Old Eagle School Road?
Yeah, like where the CVS is, and then by the Lancaster Farmers Market and the car wash, like where those are two horrible intersections. And then I think people just get panicked and think that that's what will happen if we go down to 1 lane in Berwyn.
There's no dedicated turn lane for those intersections.
That's right. Yeah, but I think that's really helpful. So if we can know that going in, and then we can be prepared to explain why they're different.
Yeah.
It might be that section of Route 30's got twice as much traffic on it, right? So that's clearly one issue. You don't have the left turn lanes. You've got by the car wash, it's a sort of an odd angle, I believe, right? So there's some things that are affecting. But no,
exactly. Yeah, it's all intersection issues, not traffic count issues, I think. But just being prepared to illustrate that, I think, will help.
Yeah, agreed.
Not to go too into the engineering weeds, but the software we used to do our analysis was called SimTraffic. It's not the uber expensive platform, but it can provide a visualization and a simulation. And we might even want to think about bringing a sample of that. Like you can do in fast forward, say a half hour of what the 3-lane cross section would look like. And we could post it on the township website. I mean, it just turns it into an MP4. And you can zoom in and see, just as a non-traffic engineer, how's this gonna look if I'm flying over top like a crow over the village? And simplifies it all and just makes it, you can watch the cues, you can see it. And it's a very kind of digestible way to picture that. So that was one, I knew we might need that, and so right from the jump, I had Sarah build the whole analysis and some traffic in case we need that in our back pocket.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate your feedback tonight. Looking forward to the engagement and reconvening, and we can continue to narrow our selections.
Awesome. Great. Yeah.
Thanks,
Much
guys.
appreciated. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Take it online.
No, color.
We are the public.
All right, announcements. Next meeting is Thursday, November 6th.
November.
1973.
Yes, it's up over here.
It's already up to us.
It's only the sixth of it. It's the seventh.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes, yeah.
I guess we lost,
How are you?
Stacy.
Can't
stay on.
The Phillies lose.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna wear it.